Welcome to our lovely future humans, those of you who are tuning in as self-leaders, as people who get to be yourself. So you own your brain, as we discussed in the short, which means you own your mind, and that also means you leave a legacy that inspires human potential because you embody being yourself equals self-leadership. It equals that leadership that lasts the test of time because you're bringing forth an integrated brain. Hold on for it. So I almost reacted. Then I remembered sovereignty is a choice. The journaling prompts and the inner growth mindset practices are for those of you who do this kind of lovely reflective work. And as you do know, it's not about right or wrong, no, it's only right or wrong for those who are not curious about life, and those people won't be back. So they technically don't even own their mind because they're full of a bunch of, let me pause to find my notes. Give me a minute. They're full of doubt. So fear-based. When they're looking for objective truths, it's more of trying to prove that they're right versus understand that the world has a bunch of different, not only subjective reality groups of people, but just all of it. You know how many years we've been building information? And so while I do know that's where people are like, but Maria, it's your fault. We have flat earthers. Not really. I mean, it's just not my fault. They don't seem to notice the 3 kryptonites to human awakening. Validation loops. So people who look for each other, then they don't expand their window of welcome or window tolerance. Like the Zen master says, we all have laundry. There's no enlightenment. And it's like, no. Some of us just say it's crying. And then they follow unembodied, what they call leaders around. I actually don't think of them as leaders, but I do understand fear-based human beings want control, so they will continue to allow themselves to not grow, but become the puppets and actually be wielded by those who have the same mannerisms as they do. So if you are curious of how to work with uncertainty and to continue moving into steadiness, or if you want to add to your journaling and your mindset practices, there's bundles on PayHip. One in particular gives you the foundation. So as we keep moving forward, I'm going to remind those who are new of what is out there on PayHip for you. Since you have the ability to manage your own system, you do know how to create eustress, which is why you take the opportunity under activation to work with nervous system fluency, breathing. We train the pause, and as we learn to pause because we're curious of all, if someone interrupts you, like when I get interrupted, excuse me, this is a random human being, you don't know the story. You're confusing science and spirituality. And I say, no, I'm a mystic. I'm in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. I'm a Reiki master. I'm an Akashic record reader. I tell him all about myself. He's like, no, I'm a Reiki master too. So adults who refuse to evolve. This is one of the perfect examples. Why modeling matters more than arguing. Well, one, modeling matters because we leave a legacy behind for the children. I'm leaving it for the kids. The grown-ups who are already basically using the dark sides of neuroplasticity, I'm letting you all know, as we move forward, my edge, she will come forth so that I can show you how easy it is to master your own prefrontal as your child parts come up, because they're not actually orphaned. You're not doing any kind of shadow work on a screen, because that would mean you would want to be serious about yourself. So when I see people who are not serious, I'm going to leave that alone. 3D, 4D brothers and sisters. I almost reacted, and then I remembered sovereignty is a choice. I choose to embody self-leadership. There we go. So we choose to remind ourselves that every person has a different body. Mine is safe, and my nervous system is safe, and that I am not going to lower my frequency due to those who dysregulate. And that's how you recalibrate. So you don't shrink yourself, you will recalibrate yourself. And as Tara Brock pointed out in a summit way back when, we will perceive somatic empaths, though she doesn't use the word mystics or spiritual ones, but that's okay. We will perceive our species, and anyone who does not agree, let's see, I'm going to use Lovely Neil, a couple of quotes from him. You can know enough about a subject to think you are right, but not enough about a subject to know you're wrong. Do you know what I've noticed about most people who don't know nervous system fluency? They're not curious. They actively are in a moment. Excuse me, you're confusing science spirituality. They're spiritual bypassers / somatic bypassers. my honor is that I get to practice my edge with you, because consistently I know when I'm learning from those who have data for me, and then I know how to discern when someone's giving me their side of the story, which is where those who want to not argue right here will learn. I'm learning right now how to let you know why I know when Buddha's making fun of me as a channeler and a downloader. He comes up every now and then. Jesus over here, God's up there. My galactic beings came to visit me, and I also had another download recently. So my point is, yes, woo, sort of science is fine. I know who scientists are. That's what I'm saying. But when Neil deGrasse was presenting all of his stuff for this course he has, I was like, okay, yes, leaders pause. The true leaders. The fake ones are there for the fake people. I'm going to use Maria's words. It's not that they're fake. I'm sorry. It's kind of like Pinocchio. So it's pseudo-live. And while I have all the respect for everybody who's trying to get everybody on board with healing, I've noticed that the fake leaders tend to control, manipulate each other into continuing dysregulated activity. So I am trying to master my edge, master using my, right here, this one, the voice with those who are grown-ups, and then let you know the self-leadership era, it is here. It's not thanks to that which is ignorance. No, we will know ignorance. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay, you can keep on doing all that. In the meantime, I got this. I love it. Thanks, Thomas Campbell. So what made me laugh about something called these three categories of truth that Neil presented, personal, political, and objective, is that when I went to do research on these objective truths, I found very small little bit of data there, and I'm like, okay, that's why we have flat earthers. And then I was reminded of Sam Harris and how he points out anyone who's grounded in reality will basically know that any of their cherishable beliefs can be falsifiable. And this is where, if you don't know, I'm a co-author of a book. It's called The Ways to God. And in my chapter, you get to hear about me and my story with my good Christian Catholic catechist and my self-agency, and how God is discerning equanimous love. And then I got to share with you a couple of Italian sayings, and I'm bicultural. So one of which is, the ones who are naive, meaning stupid, want to be told they're right. This is an active saying I'm translating to the best of my ability. Then there's also a couple more sayings, who does for themselves, does for three. And there was one I wanted to tell you all, but it slips my mind now when it comes back. But it's amazing how the sayings that I think of remind me of why wisdom comes from the capacity for you to know that data is very easy to discern when you're an intellectual mind, because you care to learn things with knowledge. If you care to be right or wrong, there's our pseudo-intellectuals who can continue to use their most eloquent or not words. It's very humorous. No, it's a waste of time, because when I hear a proper skeptic questions what they're unsure of but recognizes what valid evidence is presented to change their mind, that means that a person is being challenged, which also means that they're not yet whole. So again, modeling versus arguing is great. Modeling means embodying the discerning, equanimous, loving tone, and it's a frequency of, it's not about right or wrong, because knowledge will continue to be built. So our ancestors knew some things. Hippocrates pointed to his colleagues at the time, when we find out what epilepsy is, you will stop calling it the wrath of the gods or something like that. Don't quote me. Today we have Patrick McNamara, a neuroscientist, proving there's no demon inside the body of anyone, and more than just him. So decentralizing in the self and religious experiences. So people who don't seem to understand just how much the body does affect the brain are the same ones who I get to see out there continuing to think they know who's right and who's wrong. And I'm thinking, you're modeling epistemic laziness. Those who follow you model the same, because if they knew epistemic discipline, they'd start buying a bunch of books. They'd stop and sit down. They'd start reading. They'd continue to train that pause. They'd continue to learn to get curious versus be moronic, because blind spots are what make the masculine the most annoying of anything. It's a dysregulated, insecure body, which is why anyone who's smart isn't going to want to waste their time there, because you're going to be like, you're not the teacher. You don't know everything. And the fact that you're trying to dismiss scientific evidence that everyone is good inside tells me something about you, not me. And then when you go and find out about this thing, objective truth, so while it's great, hearing that Neil, with his course, is going to teach people how to think. But I'm like, yeah, you're only going to teach the people who, if they're arguing with others, aren't really doing anything great, because science and spirit both can argue with each other. That's not going to bring the world together. Actively, those are two groups and bodies that will continue fighting for nothing more than words. It's not amazing. The left brain comes online at the age of 2. So when you learn about how the embodied brain is made, you understand words are coming after. Feelings come first. People who don't own their implicit memory don't believe it's a real thing. And so when you explain it to them, and they say, I found it hard to believe that my first years of life, you think nothing, because you know what a dumbass is. And when you hear someone say, oh, don't talk about drama kings and drama queens as that, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure that they're going to continue to ignore every single bit of what you're saying, make fun of you. This is a great therapist out there who's helping people, and continue to bring forth that which is mediocre. When you go to companies that have okay with mediocrity, okay with the insecure small windows of tolerance, is very clear why. I've heard so many stories from people, which is why I've been posting lately on LinkedIn. It's like, yeah, you have bad leadership. Anything that's fear-based, control-based, the left brain, the right-wrong shit. Use your brains effectively. Go learn how to become bilaterally integrated. Then come back around once you're having fun with information. Until that moment, it's really a bunch of boring people. That's why I didn't continue to pursue academia. I love academia. I just do it on my own. And my hope is that there's more of embodied, integrated brains, true leaders in those seats that can say, okay, to all of their colleagues, you're not making learning fun. And by the way, you're also closed-minded. So it's like closed-minded people. Ignorance is not bliss. It's the most annoying of energies. And people think they know everything. At the end of the day, don't even know enough about science to notice dark matter, dark energy. Please don't implode. So the important basics. Let me pause myself. So when we find objective truths and communicate them to others, here's where it's not good enough to be right. I'm still quoting some of, paraphrasing what Neil was talking about. You also have to be effective. And he says, the less connected you are to what is objectively true, the less likely you will be able to make decisions that will benefit your life, the life of your family, and even civilization. But here's where, when you're actually not aware that subjective reality is part of the interaction, and I'm laughing right now because this is what the left brain does. It wants to bring forth everything logical. Logic does shit for a person when we're ruled by feelings first, which is where, did you know, Neil doesn't, he's not following me, Dr. Daniel Fox, one of the many great therapists out there, as he presented in one of his videos, people who are, in his case, he specialized with BPD and NPD. And I'm sure that it's more than just that, because there's also DID and other types of very big trauma. So people who are in a body that's unsafe because of people being unsafe, because that's all they know, they will doubt kindness. They will test kindness, which means a ventral vagal state. You don't have to use the word kindness. It means that anything that is loving will be tested to the bejesus of it. They will be afraid of it. They will believe it's not real. They will actively defend from it. Furthermore, neutrality, it will be you're hiding a sword behind your back. And when you're a person who knows, so I'm going to bring you back to my teenage years. As a teenager, there are plenty of sayings, goody two-shoes, boys and girls. And you should see the look on those eyes. I knew what those eyes were saying. Who knows what you're hiding? And I recently came across a study, which is very sad but not surprising. The younger male generation, apparently, this was on, I forget which website, is completely using sentences like this, that we women should obey them. And here's where Patrick McNamara came to my mind, decentralizing in the self. I don't need to have the religious experiences because it's all about post-traumatic growth. But in this case, we have no growth. We have the horrible modeling of male figures out there, and women figures, by the way, with gender stereotypes, all the movies, gender roles, and these kids who are, it's not the internet's fault, it's that they continue to have people who care more about arguing because their left brain is what dominates, because they don't have integration, and because they don't care about feelings. And that's because their first 3 years of life were taken away from them somehow, and those first 8 were made to be horrific in ways that I'm just like, okay, yeah, no children on earth, because why? You're all scary monsters. This is my 3-year-old right now. Nope, I don't care. They can keep speaking until I see this level of dysregulation, it's a world full of unhealthy fear because people don't want to learn how to use their nervous system. Now I have big grown-up words. Thanks, Dr. Dan. So when people are whole, they don't give a shit about arguing. It's, can we get rid of the people who are weak? Because seriously, oh wait, I'm so sorry, that's not nice. That's exactly how it works. Is it nice to talk about people who don't know how to self-regulate as weak? They don't agree that they have a small window tolerance. And so this is where compassion, on my heart, I have compassion. What I also know, by the way, is biology, evolution. And so when they're ignoring how amazing their body can be, and when they're following around those who are giving them patches on the back, yes, the patches on the back is basically likes and dislikes. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, because this is the part of where my judgmental asshole just came in the room. It's, I know who's right. It's the scientists that prove that every person can expand and work with their body, but they don't want to do the work. They'd rather hang out with the ignorant men and women, and then like this article that's talking about these boys and blaming internet. It's not because of internet. It's actively because what happens when two wrongs continue to charge against each other and actually have no compassion, no capacity to know what subjective reality actively means. So while someone will say it's because of you, we have flat earthers, it's not because of me. It's actively because they didn't get a third attunement repairing rupture, and their embodied brain is dysregulated. And apparently as 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, their next alloparenting crew didn't help them to grow personally. They chose to be assholes like the rest of the teenagers that I met when I was a teenager, who looked at me and said, oh, get a tissue. And I'm a grown woman at 20, going to college, meeting people fucking and miserable, saying, no, don't fuck, STDs. Now I'm 46, I get looked at, polyamory, sure, call me all the names in the book. In the meantime, I'm not wondering why we have an issue with boys and girls. I know exactly why we do. There's my judgmental ass again. And there's the part of where, well, I love you, Neil, he's using the left to talk about being rational, objective, and I know what he's saying, and he's right. I'm sure he'll teach a bunch of people who want to be effective with the whole right or wrong. I'm thinking that's not enough, Neil. As the minute you're not in the heart with it, and you're not understanding what subjective reality is, and then how many of these human beings who have this, I'm going to test kindness, I'm going to test neutrality, they actively don't believe in anything related to being in their higher potential. You're not going to make them into a believer. Cherishable beliefs can be falsifiable. They're going to go grab a bunch of other books, and actually, you know what, I'm not going to show those books, but I bought those books, because that's the smart people thing to do, is let me buy the books of those who are actually not in favor of that which is the health of humanity. So it's not about being a skeptic. A true skeptic would do their due diligence. They wouldn't have to change their mind, because they would actively understand where information knowledge is, versus be skeptical because you're really just playing with the crowd. And that's the part of performance, and that's the part of the left. So the left consistently, until it moves more towards I'm curious about learning, and then I want to be effective because I know this supports the entirety. The ego is very, very good at having ourselves make sense, which is why mine becomes a judgmental asshole. Because I can make sense to myself. Then I'm reminded of Maria's reality, and her body is not the only. I'm a neurotypical, for example. I've been watching someone who's talking about neuroatypical. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, I totally don't know how that feels like. And that's why we need people who are smart and not competitive in ways of moronism. Because that's exactly why competitiveness, people make fun of the, let's give everyone a trophy. They don't understand the let's give everybody a trophy. But it's not a 1 or 2. It's actually, that's the part. It's not about what sense we're going to make. It's about understanding from here, and then with the information. What I know is that people who do own their brain and own their mind, and they know this wholeness. And so they don't care about being right or wrong, which is why arguing is the most uninteresting of anything that will ever happen. If you grow up to be a smart human being, you will disengage from it, and then the next thing you get to work with is perceiving people out there who are completely not regulated, and learning how to recalibrate. And self-calibration is really easy, as, again, you have healthy fear at this point. Well, if you're still here, of course, because usually people's attention span dwindles when they're looking for some form of certainty. And fear, it's unfortunate that type, it's humanly speaking, we have secondary consciousness. So we always will be learning things luckily science will get us off the planet, which is why I'm in favor and happy that science is out there. And when people are against it or think that it can disprove God or our belief system or any of that experiences, it's silly, because it can't. It actively can talk sense to us. Plus, as I pointed out, I need to read this. Thomas Campbell, he's amazing, as he used different words so that he wouldn't be getting people upset. But basically, he gives us an explanation of everything so that the left brainers can be happy. I like to let you know, right and left brain love to find out people like this, because they're helping those who are smart to know, okay, we have more things that we can learn, and in the meantime, we hope that we get more real leaders out there. The leadership, yes, era, self-leadership era, that's what helps bring consciousness alive. And as with every eon, we always have those who will rise up and leave a legacy behind of A-gamers, and those who will not leave a legacy behind of A-gamers. In books, they will be seen for what they are. And that is part of what it is to be a human, to not look to the past and think of our ancestors as horrible, but to know that they were ignorant of information. And that today, when I tell people Patrick McNamara proves there's no demons inside of anyone, they're there, Maria. So sorry. You're going to be rejected by all of the religious groups because God doesn't need science. And you're a mystic and an Akashic record reader, and automatically, and all the other words that are you're just not, we don't let bad JoJo in, bad juju. And I think, really? See, you guys like to play like you're it. 1, 2 is seriously ridiculous. Like, God's perfection exists in every person. So you're actively denying that God's perfection, his creation, exists by using stories from our ancient ancestors that apparently didn't know science, and today we have science. This is where you don't talk logic to people whose cherishable beliefs, they're not able to be grounded in reality, and deny them because they want to be a special group. And so people who are fear-based, they are adaptive child part. They have core wounds. They don't own their brain, which is why they don't own their mind. That's also why someone else will, and that's also why arguing with them, why would you argue with someone who's telling you why their leaders are right? There's no point. It's a lost cause, and it's a lost conversation, and in the meantime, at least you can have what is a mutual interaction where you don't dismantle. So it's nice to be able to be polite, is the word that I'm going to use, because when people don't care to understand that subjective reality thing, that's where ego's coming into the mix again. And so neutrality and duality, I get to still practice it because judgmental doesn't work. So my lack of effectiveness is when I become that which would be called semi-arrogant and thinking that everybody will want to choose love, because why wouldn't they? And that arrogance isn't because I'm smarter or better. No, it's because why would you not want a body that is securely attached? Why would you not want an integrated brain? Why would you not want to be unfolding in the most amazing version of yourself? Why would you not want to take off that mask? Why would you not want to own your default mode network and sense of self? And who's saying you can't do it? See, to my knowledge, everyone can do it. And as Dr. Daniel Fox presents, and all the good therapists out there, anybody who is working with a good therapist is getting somewhere. So anybody who thinks that someone has to suffer for the rest of their life, that's the group of scientists. I'm like, I'm hearing differently from my group of scientists, that you all can heal everyone. And that's not my job. My job is where I'm sharing stories of lived experience. Then I give journal prompts for those who are ready to do it with nervous system fluency, personal growth, spiritual growth, which now I know how to let you know there's a difference. If you don't own your nervous system, you're not doing personal growth yet. To do personal growth means you can be objective about yourself. You have flaws and imperfections. Someone will look at you, point a finger, say you're wrong, call you a bunch of names, continue to do so, even use the word evil, monsters, Lucifer, all of it. You never know. And a grown-up who's growing knows how to take it like a woman or a man. And so, again, if I meet any of those boys out there say, you must obey, I won't be like, oh my God. It'll be, have fun trying to get a smart woman to be around you. And as for the women who interview men who pretend to choke women, have fun with men and women who are still doing stuff like that. I want to be away from all of them because they definitely are fear-based in ways that are of our ancestors and very uninteresting. So intellectual, savvy men, women, and days know where knowledge is built. That's why they don't dismantle it. Also, we know that arguing isn't going to do much. So modeling that which is called decency, common courtesy, trying to remember that there will be those who refuse to evolve. It's not because they can't. There's the 3 kryptonites, validation loops, like the flat earthers. They find their group. They don't believe in scientists, and they actively will deny it completely. And while I can make fun because science doesn't know everything, again, I do trust objective truths, which is why I went to look it up. I just ended up finding so little that I'm like, okay, now I'm really clear on why we have the debates between the scientific community and some who are thinking this is ridiculous. And I'm like, well, if you only respected each other's perspectives and talked with humility, which even I, again, with my edge, I'm still working on that, you would be able to get more done. But if you think you're right and they're wrong and you're going in like that, that's the moment of truth. The body will perceive it. And so those are the people who are not coming together. They're going to clash. And so you will not be able to train your mind if you don't if you don't own your brain and if it's not integrated. And so no matter what objective truth is presented to you, here's where, like, blind faith, I have blind faith. But I'm not going to expect anyone to have to believe in God. And here's why when someone says God doesn't need science, I think God made us all. Science is part of his children. The fact that you don't acknowledge it just tells me that you don't like the subject matter. When I see the spiritual group fighting amongst each other, wow, really? Okay then, I think you think you're a special group and none of everything comes in. Right brain has everything in. Left brain doesn't like A, B, C, D, E, F, G touching. And that's why if it's a knee-jerk reaction, you know by the 3rd time, no, you're confusing. Tell me what you're thinking, I told the person. Because I'm curious now, because that's what a 3-year-old, a child, I'm curious, and myself, I'm whole. I'm not arguing with you. I'm having a good time. I'm actually interested. I learned how to become curious because by the time I was in my mid-20s, or as a teen, I'm like, this is really not nice to be disrespectful to those who have an opinion. I don't need to prove I'm right or wrong because I'm not doing any of that. Personally, I'm just looking to learn things, and I know when I'm learning it. And even when I'm learning it from people that are intellectually savvy, but they're giving me their story, when my ego comes up, it's because I'm meeting another ego saying, I know I'm right. They're not saying it that way, but they're feeling it, which is why my edge still is something that will, as it comes up, it has people like, and that's fair and square. But by being aware of it, I work with it because I want more people to be welcoming of all, and that's really what I am. I just get irritated sometimes, and then I get sad, and then I get mad, and then I continue to remind myself the world doesn't revolve around me, 3-year-old. So you do know that embodying self-leadership under pressure, it means that when you're activated, you choose to be a person who can say to the children, okay, here's nervous system fluency, let's self-regulate, here's emotional maturity, here's when we have a overreaction, here's how we don't accompany a story to it, we don't need to, and by being your own functional child adult, you will model and lead by example, and in time, the self-leadership era will become that which is our 5D collective. It's amazing. So the future is natural selection, always goes towards intelligence, love. Even, I haven't read it yet, the big book, but you better bet, I can't wait. Even though I don't know how many years it'll take me to read this. It's a big book. Let's see, how many pages is this? Well, it's 3 books, excuse me. Yeah, 3 books. So it's a total of 820. So we'll find out how amazing it is whenever it is that I get to it. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.